Hello, and welcome to Historical Humans Reads, where we take primary sources and bring them to your screen. I'm Colum Coleman, and today we are reading from a true, first-hand account from one of the most terrible and tumultuous times in history. Written while in hiding from 1942 to 1944. It is a tragic story of struggle and secrecy that ultimately took the life of a 15-year-old girl. It is, of course, The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Today, we will be reading the entry for July 8th, 1944. With that, let's begin. Dearest Kitty, Mr. Brox was in Beaverwich and managed to get a hold of strawberries at the produce auction. They arrived here dusty and full of sand, but in large quantities. No less than 24 crates for the office and us. That very same evening, we canned the first 6 jars and made 8 jars of jam. The next morning, Meep started making jam for the office. At 12:30, the outside door was locked. Crates were lugged into the kitchen, with Peter, father, and Mr. Von Don stumbling up the stairs. Anne got hot water from the water heater. Margaret went for a bucket. All hands on deck. With a funny feeling in my stomach, I entered the overcrowded office kitchen. Meep, Bep, Mr. Kleiman, Jan, Father, Peter, the annex contingent, and the supply corps all mixed up together. And that in the middle of the day, curtains and windows open, loud voices banging doors. I was trembling with excitement. I kept thinking, are we really hiding? This must be how it feels when you can finally go out into the world again. The pan was full, so I dashed upstairs where the rest of the family was pulling strawberries around the kitchen table. At least that's what they're supposed to be doing. But more were going into their mouths and into the buckets. They were bound to need another bucket soon. Peter went back downstairs, but then the doorbell rang twice. Leaving the bucket where it was, Peter raced upstairs and shut the bookcase behind him. We sat kicking our heels impatiently. The strawberries were waiting to be rinsed, but we stuck to the house rule. No running water when strangers are downstairs. They might hear the drains. Jan came up at 1 to tell us it had been the mailman. Peter hurried downstairs again. Ding dong the doorbell. About face. I listened to hear if anyone was coming, standing first at the bookcase, then at the top of the stairs. Finally, Peter and I leaned over the banister, straining our ears like a couple of burglars to hear the sounds from downstairs. No unfamiliar voices. Peter tiptoed halfway down the stairs and called out, Bep. Once more, Bep. His voice drowned out by the racket in the kitchen. So he ran down to the kitchen while I nervously kept watch from above. Go upstairs at once, Peter. The accountant's here. You've got to leave. It was Mr. Kogler's voice. Sighing, Peter came upstairs and closed the bookcase. Mr. Kogler came up at 1:30. My gosh, the whole world's turned to strawberries. I had strawberries for breakfast, Jan's having them for lunch, Kleiman's eating them as a snack, Meep's boxing them, Ben's holding them, and I can smell them everywhere I go. I come upstairs to get away from all that red, and what do I see? People washing strawberries. The rest of the strawberries were canned that evening. 2 jars came unsealed. Father quickly turned them to jam. The next morning, 2 more lids popped, and that afternoon, 4 lids. Mr. Von Don hadn't gotten the jars hot enough when he was sterilizing them, so Father ended up making jam every evening. We ate hot cereal with strawberries, buttermilk with strawberries, bread with strawberries, strawberries for dessert, strawberries with sugar, strawberries with sand. For 2 days, there was nothing but strawberries, strawberries, strawberries. And then our supply was either exhausted or in jars, safely under lock and key. Hey, Anne, Margaret called out one day. Mrs. Van Hoven has let us have some peas, 20 pounds. That's nice of her, I replied, and It certainly was, but so much work. Ugh. On Saturday, you've all got to shell peas, Mother announced at the table. And sure enough, this morning after breakfast, our biggest enamel pan appeared on the table, filled to the brim with peas. If you think shelling peas is boring work, you ought to try removing their inner linings. I don't think many people realize that once you've pulled out the linings, the peas are soft, delicious, and rich in vitamins. But an even greater advantage is that you get nearly 3 times as much when you just eat the peas. Stripping pods is a precise and meticulous job that might be suited to pedantic dentists or finicky spice experts. But it's a horror for an impatient teenager like me. We started work at 9:30. I sat down at 10:30, got up again at 11, sat down again at 11:30. My ears were humming with the following refrain: snap the end, strip the pod, pull the string, pod in the pan. Snap the end, strip the pod, pull the string, pot in the pan, etc., etc. My eyes were swimming. Green, green, worm string, rotten pod, green, green. To fight the boredom and have something to do, I chatted all morning, saying whatever came into my head and making everyone laugh. The monotony was killing me. Every string I pulled made me more certain that I never, ever want to be just a housewife. At 12, we finally ate breakfast, but from 12:30 to 1:15, we had to strip pods again. When I stopped, I felt a bit seasick, and so did the others. I napped until 4, still in a daze because of those wretched peas. Yours, Anne M. Frank. This has been an excerpt from The Diary of a Young Girl on Historical Humans Reads. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear more excerpts from original texts, please subscribe to be notified of the next one. If there is a work you would like to hear, be sure to like this video and leave a comment listing it below. As always, thank you for listening.